Common monosyllabic words. In this module, we'd like to look at what happens when you add suffixes to monosyllabic words, words with only one syllable. Previously, we looked at the whole issue in general, what happens when you add plurals, plural endings in particular, to nouns, and then specifically with segolets. Remember, segolets of all different types, but in the plural, they all take one form. Here we want to look at what happens with monosyllabics in particular. Sus, which was the word we looked at, our paradigm word, actually is a monosyllabic. We didn't discuss it in that sense there, but it is. And if you add the feminine ending, you get a. Remember? Sus, susa. Go over here and write this. And the plural, sus, im, susim, and susot. We won't worry about the dual at this point. So here we noticed that sus retained itself. Nothing changed. But we didn't say why, or maybe I mentioned it. Anyway, the reason is because you have a mater here. This is a historically long vowel, and historically long vowels do not reduce. If you remember back to our vowel chart, we had, maybe I'll write it down here, we had our maters, we had he. The very top row we had the historically long vowels with the maters. He, we had yud, and we had vav. And then we had our long vowels, and then we had our short vowels, and then we had our composite or compound shavas down here. So it's sort of 4 levels. Well, the top level, you can't reduce these historically long vowels. And if you want to think about it this way, it's like they have consonants in them. Of course they don't. These are symbols used as consonants or as vowels, but you can't get rid of consonants. It's too heavy. It's too much to get rid of. So historically long vowels do not reduce. And so when you add these endings, even this feminine ending, it all stays. The basic form stays. Now, what happens with the next 2 cases of monosyllabics? That's what I want to look at now. So that's number 1. Historically long vowels do not change. 2, long vowels, so that was sort of tier 2. You could call them changeable long vowels, I suppose. The long vowels that aren't historically long, don't have maters. Long vowels and short vowels, if they are in monosyllabics, then what you get is you get doubling. You get doubling of the second letter when you add the ending. Okay, what am I talking about? If you have a word like which is people, means people, and you add the ending, let us just do the consonants for a moment. Use the medial form of mame, obviously, and let's add our ending. So the ending would be im. That's no problem. This stays, and you get doubling. The second letter doubles. And I think what's going on here is that you want to preserve your CVC. This here was a CVC syllable, right? C, V, C. And if you remember, let me just refresh you on syllables. We had 2 basic types, CV and CVC. And then we could have these both stressed, CV stressed and CVC stressed. But for the unstressed states, for the unstressed syllables, we could say something fairly concrete about the vowel that was in there. The longer one had to have the short vowel, and the shorter one had to have the long vowel. So, in this case here, we have CVC with a short vowel. No problem. Over here, we have CVC, CVC, because this has got 2 consonants there, right? If we didn't double this, we would have CV. Our syllable would divide here, and we'd have CVC. But if we ended up with CV here, we would expect a long vowel. And in fact, we have a short vowel. So I think what's going on here is that the doubling, at least in part, at least one way to look at it, is that the doubling is here to preserve the CVC because you have a short vowel. Now if we go back a screen, if we look here we had CVC, CVC with a long vowel, stressed because it's a monosyllabic. Here, when we add the ending, put our syllable division here, we get su, sim. So we have CV. What was CVC became CV. A closed syllable became open. But it's okay, because open syllables have to have long vowels, and in fact you have a long vowel there. But if this vowel is short, as it is here, then you don't want an open syllable, you want to make it closed. And so I think that's what's going on. Now, having said all that, you can also get reduction here. You can have a long vowel, which you think would be okay, and it will reduce. So why, I don't know. You'll get doubling and it will reduce. Example, that is chok, which is statute, as in a legal statute. You pluralize it, and let's just do the consonants again. We'll put our ending on. What was a holum reduced to a shuruk, and you have doubling. Now actually, what you end up then is CVC, right? CVC with a short vowel, which is fine, which is good. But what may be happening here is that, in fact, I think that is what's happening. I'm just thinking aloud here. Your doubling happens first, or that takes priority. So if you double, you've made a CVC, and your long vowel can no longer exist in that, right? CVC unstressed has to be short, and so it reduces. So actually this does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I think actually what is going on behind this here is that these are actually geminate nouns. We'll come to this later at some point. But the base form of this, really, there's another meme here, and it's the singular that's really the odd one. Here this is showing the base form in there, or at least historically. I could be wrong on that, but in any case, this actually does all make sense, which is nice. CVC, because of the doubling, means you need to have a short vowel there, and in fact, a long vowel is then reduced. So, syllables really do play an important role in many things in Hebrew. Now, what's going to happen, we're going to go to our third case here, what's going to happen if this guy here is a guttural? Gutturals can't double, right? So it's a problem. So something else is going to happen. Well, if you have gutturals, the second letter is a guttural, so you can't double, which is what you would expect if you have a long, which is what you want here. If you have a long or a short vowel in your monosyllabic, but this is a guttural, it can't double. So what you get is compensatory lengthening or implied doubling. Now if you go back, let me just write at least an abbreviation here, compensatory lengthening, oops, that should be ing, nope, E-N-I-N-G, compensatory lengthening. If you go back to the module on the article with weak letters, you'll remember that this was covered there, or implied doubling. Implied doubling. So, the article, remember, has three parts to it. There's the consonant, the vowel, and then it wants to double the next letter. So if this was a guttural, then it can't double, and there's a number of things that happen, including these two. Same thing here. You're trying to double a guttural, it doesn't work. Let's look at an example. Ra, which means evil, it's the adjective, evil. What happens is, and let me just write down the, don't put this in for a second. So we can't double this, or let's start here. We've put on our masculine ending, im. It's a short vowel in a monosyllabic, so we expect to double this. We can't, and so this lengthens. Ra'im. And a similar one would be ach, which is brother. And this here is ahim. This, I suppose, would be implied doubling. It is pretending to double, virtual doubling, whatever you want to call it. Not doubling. This is not lengthening. In fact, it's reducing. I don't know why. This is an odd plural, but it doesn't double in any case. So you could call it implied doubling. And over here, we have compensatory lengthening, because we can't double this, and so this lengthens to compensate. Ra'im. Now I suppose this produces a CV, right? Open syllable. Ra'im. It's unstressed and it's long. Well, I don't know. That seems counterintuitive to me, but it's what happens. You could probably explain this in a more complete way, but this is what we're doing right now. So, monosyllabics, if they have historically long vowels, the vowel doesn't change. That's the first tier here. If they are long or short, changeably long or short, then you get doubling of the second letter, I think, to preserve the closed syllable that you started with. But anyway, whether that is or isn't true, what happens is with long or short monosyllabics, or long or short vowels in monosyllabics, you get doubling the second letter, and sometimes you get reduction as well if the vowel is long. And lastly, if you can't double, you'll get compensatory lengthening sometimes. Other times it just won't double, and you call it implied doubling.